Hello, my name is Peter Fattinger. I'm professor at Vienna University of Technology, where I'm running the DesignBuild-Studio, which I founded 20 years ago. I was invited by Professor Cheng to participate in the SCU conference this December in Taiwan, and he asked me to put together some slides for you about our DesignBuild-Studio. As it shouldn't take much more than 20 minutes, I will give you some general information on our studio first, and then show a small selection of 3 exemplary projects, which have quite different framework conditions each. So here we go. Yeah, within our design build projects, the students are running through all stages of a small but real building project. They're working in collective teamwork from the first sketch till fixing the last screw, with all the related responsibilities and consequences. Within these projects, we also try to expand the traditional role of the architect as a service provider by acting, in most cases, not only as designers, but also as initiators, fundraisers, constructors, and sometimes even as operators and users of these projects in one entity. The students learn to deal with small budgets, tight deadlines, and unexpected problems. And most importantly, they are confronted with the setbacks, which usually come up when you are transforming plans into built reality. Not only the collaboration within the student team, but also the collaboration with the clients, users, local authorities, consultants, professionals, material suppliers, and sponsors makes an important part of the learning by doing process of these projects. The immediate goal of our design build projects is not only to build architecture, but rather to give students the possibility to evaluate the equality of their thinking against the constraints of the real world, and to understand the implications of the decisions in a broader context. Here, just quickly want to give you a brief idea about how the DesignBuild-Studio is embedded in our university. At the moment, there are 3,600 students enrolled in architecture at our school. 1,400 of them are in the master studies, and every year they can choose from a variety of around 80 design studios. The studios are coping with very different topics, design tasks like designing skyscrapers, airports, museums, social housing, as well as urban design, landscape design, and many more. One out of these 80 design studios is DesignBuild-Studio. There are basically 2 ranges of projects we're doing within our DesignBuild-Studio. So one range of projects are temporary installations for urban public space in Austria. The other range of projects are permanent buildings for social institutions. So in the first couple of years, we were doing permanent projects in overseas countries like South Africa and Indonesia. But in the meantime, we put our focus to projects located back in Austria. So for each of these 3 different ranges, I will show you one exemplary project. So add-on, near orphanage, and there's a third project, Umbau. So very first projects, we're focusing a lot on temporary interventions in public urban space. After some small interventions, which we realized in different locations in Vienna, we were invited by the Fund for Public Art of the City of Vienna to do a large-scale project in the outskirts of Vienna. So we chose this urban square, the Wallensteinplatz in the 20th district of Vienna, as location of the project. The basic idea was to add a usable vertical extension to a public space, a kind of collage of different functions of everyday life stacked above each other. The public space as stage and grandstand for real encounters. For the prefabrication of the units, we had the possibility to use a large abandoned hall at Vienna Fairgrounds. The individual space units for the various functions were designed and built by different teams of students. An essential aspect of design build projects is that all design and building activities are executed by the same acting persons, and that there's no longer, as usual in the established architectural practice, a strict division of those who design and those who build. So you have the possibility to develop design hand in hand with the building process while you're building. So here one of the finished modules, a small cafe to be integrated into the scaffolding system, which was set up by these professional workers. So while they did their job, the students were busy preparing the floor platforms before the modules were delivered and put into place by a crane. After the designing and building process taking nearly 4 months, the temporary installation was ready to open in summer 2005. For 6 weeks, Add-On was hosting a dense program of daily workshops, lectures, performances, and concerts. Artists and residents were invited to live and work on site in a structure which was connected to the tower by a bridge. The whole tower was completely public and accessible. Anybody could step up and use it. Walking up the stairs, you could find very different scenarios like stacked landscapes. So from the info kiosk at the level of the square to an elevated table soccer, a DJ cabin covered with hundreds of hand-cut mirrors, some overhanging working spaces equipped with internet access. But yeah, things like these, of course, just work in summer, and we were really lucky to have a great summer in 2005. While some passerbys just watched Add-On from a safe distance, others used the potential of the temporary intervention intensively. Of course, it was the kids who at first realized the possibilities offered by Add-On and convinced the parents to make use of the structure. But basically, all generations were interested, curious, and excited. They enjoyed to explore the extraordinary environment, to discover unexpected settings, and to interact with the installation and with the other visitors. Here, for example, you can see an installation by artist in residence David Moises, who installed a car wash to, as he said, polish his skin on the way to the whirlpool. The car wash was operating on and off by random, what caused quite some surprise for the visitors. So some further steps up, we installed a caravan for the housekeeper. Here always 2 members of our team were staying during the nights to take care of Add-On. Projects like Add-On only work with the intense care of a big team, which always has to be present on site, to take care of it, to maintain it, and to clean it, and what is most important, to communicate with the visitors. It's definitely not a drop sculpture, which you can just leave by itself. So also the canteen on the level of 9 meters was an important communication point and somehow the vibrant heart of Add-On. Every day, different teams of students, artists, and architects were invited to run the kitchen. But many people also came with their own picnic baskets, sometimes already early in the morning, to enjoy a breakfast with a view. Above, on top, we set up a roof terrace with a fake rock and a mini mountain pond. For 6 weeks, Add-On positioned itself at the interface between publicness and privateness. It offered insight as well as outlook. It allowed new perspectives on the familiar surrounding and questioned burned-in modes of perception of public space. It was about urban appropriation, about activating public space, about improving the relationship between social and spatial matters. Temporary interventions like this have the great advantage that more experimentation is possible than in the corset of permanence. The limited time frame allows not only a more daring and lighter construction, but also a more intense and concentrated activity in and around the installation. While its physical presence may have disappeared at the end of the project, memories and the emotionality of the place still remain. A completely different set of framework conditions came up with our projects, which we did in threshold countries overseas. In comparison to the previous FMR projects, here the goal was to design and build permanent buildings for social institutions, proper structures which can withstand intense use in any weather condition over many years. The first of these projects we undertook in a South African township in Johannesburg, where we designed and built a center for people with disabilities and a kindergarten. In 2007, we were invited by the Austrian NGO Caritas to do a project on the Indonesian island Nias, which was severely hit by the tsunami and following earthquakes 2 years before. So we were asked to extend this existing orphanage on the island Nias, the Kinderdorf Gide, with a multi-purpose hall. The hall should not only be used as play room and event space for the 80 orphans, but also as a kind of community center for the whole village. So here you can see the site for this future multifunctional hall, quite a sloping terrain, which had a big influence on the development of the project. So the design was undertaken in a collaborative and collective process by the students during winter term in Vienna. And as you can see here, the building follows the topography of the site. Big sitting stairs and platforms of different height should connect the upper and lower part of the building. Yeah, and as a team of 20, we finally traveled to Indonesia for the realization in February 2007 and stayed for 8 weeks. For the basic construction, we could use local wood, which was harvested from the forest of the monastery, which was running the orphanage. It was incredibly strong and heavy wood, which allowed us to reduce the dimensions of the structure to half of what we pre-calculated with our structural engineers back in Vienna. And yeah, generally only quite a small range of materials was available in stock on this small island. Basically corrugated metal, translucent corrugated PVC, plywood and cement. To react to the climatic challenges, we constructed the roof and exterior walls 2-layered. Extensive roofs protect the entrances from rain and sun, and the ventilation through the building was optimized to a double-layered lamella facade with mosquito nets in between. And as the building followed the natural drop of the terrain of 4 meters, this also had a positive effect on the air convection within the building. Yeah, a relevant aspect of doing design build projects in these threshold countries is to sensibilize the students for global relations and to confront them with a very different reality of life in these regions of the world. Another positive effect of doing a project far away from home is that the team is kind of free from obligations and distractions, which they would have in their normal everyday life back at home. So from sunrise till sunset, we could really dedicate our full time to the project, 6 days a week and 8 weeks in total. Yeah, it's incredible how much energy can be generated when a team of just 20 students is heading for a common aim like this big building with full enthusiasm. Yeah, and with the opening ceremony and the handover of the building to the users, a new phase of the project begins. So now the students can experience how their design proves when it's used. So here the view of the general, the central grandstand with seating steps and platforms. It follows this natural topography of the site and also functions as a great indoor playground on very different levels. And it connects the entrance and library area on the higher level with the assembly hall and music room on the lower level. A handcraft workshop, sanitary facilities, and a small hideout for the kids are also situated on the ground floor. Yeah, and after 4 projects in overseas countries, we put our focus back to Austria again from 2008 on, where we did many different permanent projects for various NGOs. And so I'll show you now one of these project we did in 2005, project which led us to a very idyllic place in the north of Austria, in the wine district, around 80 kilometers north of Vienna, to the small village Unteralp. Here the NGO Caritas is running a home for mentally disabled people in a historically protected farm estate of a former monastery. Around 45 people with mental disabilities live and work here. Another additional 40 come here on a daily basis to work in different workshops. So one big focus of the workshops the handicapped are busy with is organic agriculture. So they're producing jams, honey, herbs, and also have plenty of hens, pigs, and sheep and stuff like that. But there are also other fields of workshops the handicapped can choose to work in, like carpenting, painting, and masonry. And yeah, all this is embedded in a great landscape and historically protected architecture, partially even dating back to the 16th century. The right wing of this courtyard, which was the only building still used by the monastery in the last years, also got available for use by Caritas. They decided to open a new workshop facility here, focusing on tourism. So the idea was to open a bed and breakfast facility, which should be run by people with disabilities. And they decided to invite our DesignBuild-Studio to refurbish this facility. So this is the student team at the first site visit in October 2014. So we started the project with a 1-week workshop on site to get the feeling for the location and also for the people who should then run the place, the people with disability. So here, one of the handicapped people guides the students through the so far quite untouched wing of the estate. And these literally have been the first steps of a great 18-month collaboration with the handicapped people at their wonderful farm estate. So this was the condition of the rooms as we found it, not yet appropriate nor up to date to host guests. So right on the site, the 20 students in teams of 3 to 5 people developed first ideas and concepts how to organize the different functions of the future bed and breakfast. And at the end of the first week, we already had a first presentation with Caritas and the National Preservation Department, which also joined this process. And yeah, many working weeks, discussions and presentations later, we ended up with the final design, which suggested to have all the sleeping rooms in the second floor. And due to the generous room height of nearly 5 meters, we decided to introduce freestanding sanitary units with a gallery floor above, which should then work as additional sleeping or retreat space. A multifunctional community space for all guests with seating stairs was also implanted in the second floor. You can see it on the very left. The ground floor was supposed to house the reception, the back office, the breakfast room, and the kitchen. So after 2 months of designing, we had the plans ready for submitting for building permission. The plans were supervised by a local partner architect who also officially submitted the plans at the local authorities. We could finally start the building process in March 2015. So first we had to remove tons of stuff, not only walls, but also entire floors and also digging down some meter of the soil. Yeah, on one side we had a great collaboration with the handicapped people of the masonry workshop. They joined us every day on the building site and really did a great job. And they enjoyed to be an equivalent part of the team. And also for the students, it was a great experience to work hand in hand with people with disabilities. And most of the students never before collaborated with people with disabilities. And yeah, while in the beginning some were a bit reserved, soon both sides came out of their shells. Yeah, here you see a site building which was in such a bad condition that we had to totally break it down. And after nearly 3 months of deconstruction, finally the real construction process started, and therefore we had great support from professional workers of the building company, which was officially supervising our works. So here on the left, Sepp, our foreman, giving instructions to the students. So briefed by the foreman and always under his surveillance, we could do a lot on our own. So here one of the sanitary boxes gets built. And kilometers of pipes and tubes were installed underneath the floor. Also for the electrical and HVAC installations, we were working hand in hand with professional companies, which not only instructed us how to do it, but which also in the end are liable for any defects which come up later on, maybe or maybe not. Yeah, but not only the interior was part of the project, also the reconstruction of the site building, where this new storage facility replaces the old building which we removed. And also the landscape design for the courtyard was an issue for the students. So you see them doing the formwork for the barbecue and fireplace. And yeah, the students really enjoyed to work with concrete. And while the first concrete pieces, which you see here, still were done with very rough formwork, the students during the project decided to advance their formwork skills and to start a kind of additional project within the project, which gave them a possibility for material experimentation. So they decided to cast the worktops for the kitchen in high performance concrete. So here you see them exactly measuring the mix for the concrete. And here they pour it into the form, and it's the result after stripping the formwork. So these working tops custom made for the new kitchen. And yeah, for doing all the furniture and preparing the hundreds of square meters of cladding for the sanitary boxes, which we made from wood, we had a great opportunity to collaborate with a local carpenter. So we were assisted by a retired carpenter you see here on the right, and so together with him, the students were allowed to work in the facilities of the carpenter in a neighboring village. So here they could cut and sand the birch plywood and in the end also treat it with white pigmented oil. Yeah, and finally the students also developed the branding and corporate identity for the bed and breakfast. The name Oben auf, meaning on top, not only refers to the galleries above the sanitary boxes, but also relates to the geographical location of the bed and breakfast in the Wine Hills north of Vienna. So the students created very different kinds of application for the corporate identity, for the souvenir shop. And even the wine bottles, a very important product of the region, were branded with the Oben auf logo. And you find the logo and other signage in the same typography, even on the walls in the building. Yeah, and finally, 1.5 years after the students walked through the building for the first time, we were done. Then subsequently, the handicapped for one entire month undertook a kind of test drive where all the students and the friends were invited to be test guests. And yeah, this was an important step for the handicapped before they started the full operation of the bed and breakfast. And the test drive was also an ideal learning step for the students to slip into the role of the user in the end, to see what works well and what maybe still would need some adjustments. So here just quickly some more images of the final result: the breakfast room, the kitchen with the worktops from hand-cast concrete, the courtyard with the fireplace. In the meantime, the bed and breakfast is in full operation already for 4 years now. It's extremely well booked, and it's definitely hard to get the room unless you book long in advance. So yeah, this was a short cross-section through our DesignBuild-Studio showing just 3 exemplary projects, each in a very different context and setting. And yeah, if you want to see more, please visit our homepage. Yeah, thanks for watching. I'm looking forward to meet you online at the SCU conference on the 23rd of December. And yeah, see you then. Bye-bye.